Now, I'm going to see if this microphone will work if I don't hold it. Can you hear me? Yes. Sounds like a telephone ad, doesn't it? Can you hear me now? Yeah. So, thank you, Danny, first of all, for the kind words. I was privileged to have Danny Santos work for me while I was governor, one of the best employees I ever had, and now one of the best friends I've ever had. Thank you, Danny. So, and I want to really deeply thank Mid-Valley Literacy Center for this award. I've been here when others have received this award, and I always felt so emotional because it was so personal. It felt so deeply about what the person had done, and suddenly the award is mine tonight. So I want to thank the Literacy Center for thinking of me for this award and for giving me this opportunity to be here with you. I was here 2 years ago, and looking back 2 years ago, it's really fun to be back with the friends and the supporters of Mid-Valley Literacy Center. My last visit here allowed me to join you as you celebrated the work and the success stories of the center. It was an exciting learning experience for me to see the many stories that were in this room. Hearing the personal stories of students who arrived here to simply learn to read and took that learning to earn their GED, to gain their U.S. citizenship, and to move on to college success and to life success. I believe that most people are unaware of the huge number of people in this country who cannot read. It is estimated that over 30 million adults in the U.S. lack the ability to read. But I think even fewer people understand what that lack of literacy means in a person's everyday life. What must a world feel like when one is constantly confronted with the written word and those letters, those symbols, those sentences have no meaning? No meaning. A job application, a map, trying to buy a bus ticket, or read a menu, or a road sign that says the lane changes are coming ahead. You can't read that. Or the instructions on a medicine bottle. Your world becomes a constant challenge. Finding employment and keeping that job, enrolling your children in school, finding housing. So learning to read and write, getting an education, standing for a citizenship exam, voting, most of us take those issues and those challenges sort of for granted. They're just life skills that we are all supposed to have. But for 30 million people in this country, those everyday skills simply seem out of reach. But every year, Mid-Valley Literacy Center offers a hand up making reading and writing skills reachable for adults in this area. Every year, Mid-Valley Literacy Center changes hundreds of lives, literally changes them for the rest of their life. Now it's possible, looking around the room, that you might be looking at me right now, I hope you are, and you're wondering if I can really understand the isolation and the pain of those who cannot read or write. A white woman born and raised in Oregon, My reading and writing education came almost as a part of a citizen package, automatic and expected, and that's pretty accurate. But I want to tell you, there is more to my story. I grew up in a small town in Yamhill County. Every summer I picked strawberries and green beans to earn money for my next year's school clothes. I was a good student, but no one ever suggested that I could go to college someday. I married as a senior in high school, was a mother by the time I was 19, and spent 3 years in Texas as a military wife. I returned to Oregon where my second son was born and assumed that my life would follow the path of wife and non-working mother. That's the way it was back in those years. But life had another plan for me. When my older son Mike was 6 years old, he was diagnosed as severely emotionally disturbed, later labeled autistic. The medical school experts told me I should permanently institutionalize him. He said he would never learn to read, he could never be educated, he could never hold a job. They said an institution was the only answer for my Mike. Soon after that, Mike was sent home from school, not for the day, but forever. His handicap meant that he had no right to a public school education, and I could not appeal, not to the school board, the courthouse, or the state house. The law gave my son absolutely no recognition, no rights, and no recourse. There were no laws for kids like Mike in the 1960s. Soon after that, my husband ran away with my best friend. This is a B-grade movie now. And I found myself a single mother with 2 sons, no child support, and a son with a disability that would leave him uneducated. This was not the life I had planned on. So I found a job as a bookkeeper at a construction company and began the effort to find an education for my son. I spoke out publicly about the injustice that my son was facing. I found other parents with the very same issue. I sought a hero to take on our battle. Well, sometimes when we are searching for a leader, we discover the leadership within ourselves. So I was unwilling to search for that. Thank you. So I was soon unwilling to search for that hero to help kids like my son. And I finally came to realize that I had 2 important assets, a cause and a mother's anger. So I became a part-time citizen advocate in the Oregon legislature. I took a very painful cut in pay and began a lobby effort in Salem for special education for children with emotional disabilities. I was politically inexperienced, scared to death, and I didn't have the money to buy even a cup of coffee for a legislator. But I marched up the Capitol steps determined to change the world for the disabled children of our state. My son deserved an education. 5 months later, Oregon had the first such special education rights law in the United States of America. I had moved the mountain of government for my son. He went back to school and graduated from high school in 1975. Today, Mike lives independently in his own apartment He speaks both English and Spanish fluently. Yay! He reads 2 newspapers daily, and he is retired from Mount Hood Community College after delivering the mail on campus, that campus, for 30 years. He never misses an election, a soccer game, or a meal. What a tragedy it would have been to send this smart, funny, happy guy to a mental institution for life. Education saved his life. And that legislative experience dramatically changed my life. I ran for my local school board where I served for 10 years. We developed outstanding special education programs, and we added kindergarten in our district before the state required it, and we added occupational and technical programs at the high school. Later, I was elected to the Mount Hood Community College Board. And 2 years later, after a year and a half of working on this myself, we celebrated our first GED graduation at Mount Hood Community College. What an emotional and special day that was. I believe now, and I believe then, that GED completion deserves public recognition. Now, I will confess that during those years of helping Mike build a future, raising 2 sons, and being the sole support of my family, my own education went sort of to the sidelines. But eventually, I began to budget for a few classes a term at the PSU extension program and then at Marylhurst College, and for years I added new credits toward a degree in communication term after term, year after year. Now, that may not be the recommended path to a college degree, and I admit it's not, but knowledge matters whatever road you take to acquire it, and I think we all need to remember it. We do not all take the same road to get there, but we can get there. In November 1990, when I was elected the first woman governor in Oregon history, one voting citizen in Oregon, one voting citizen took special credit for my success, my son Mike. He believed if it weren't for his disability and my fight for his educational rights, I would never have taken my cause to the legislature. I would have never run for the school board or for Secretary of State or for governor. And you know what? Mike is absolutely correct. And he still believes it. We never know till we push ourselves what we are capable of accomplishing. And the Mid-Valley Literacy Center has added that extra boost, that gentle shove, that special support for hundreds of people working toward reading skills, a GED, their citizenship, higher education, and a more successful life. For me, reading has brought me so many special memories. My mother reading to my sister and me every night at bedtime, every night. The summer I taught my very own grandson to read, I did. They couldn't teach him at school. I taught him. I just loved him so much I knew he needed to read. Now he's a college student. And then the first time I attended a public book reading where an actual author read from their new book. I'd never seen anything like that before. She wrote it and she read it. I was just overcome with that. And then there was the day that I held in my hands my newly published autobiography, You saw it over there on the table a while ago. Some of you have it in your hands. It took me 5 years to write. For me, there is some magic in reading the printed word. It takes you to new adventures, to new understanding, and to new opportunity. There is magic in reading and writing. So tonight, I am honored to be given a Literacy Trailblazer Award. As Danny told you, I have been a trailblazer as Oregon's first woman governor. I am a descendant of trailblazers since my great-great-grandparents came here on the Oregon Trail in 1853. And this award reflects my belief in the serious importance of reading, learning, personal educational success, and an educated, inclusive community where opportunity is available for all. That is the real meaning of magic. Thank you very much.